we're going to be taking a cross-country highway on US 6. Come on, let's go! Alright everyone, today we're going to be doing US Highway 6. US 6 is a almost 3,200 mile highway, basically running from nowhere to nowhere and serving no transcontinental purpose, but is a very scenic highway and a very desolate highway, especially out in the western part of the United States. And it actually used to be a northeast exclusive US highway before it was extended west many times, replacing both US 32 and US 38. US 6 is also a pretty cool road, so let us get started with this 3,200 mile highway. But first, you're watching the TheDerpHog, where I make highways content on all sorts of different topics. If you've been enjoying it, be sure to hit that like button, and if you've been really enjoying it, be sure to smash that subscribe button so you're notified on all future videos. And if you really want to help out the channel, become a member today, where you get custom cool emojis, early access to future videos, along with one free extra request per month. And if you don't want to become a member, you can always just pay $3 for a intersection request in future videos. Those highways will be listed down in the description below, and I'll make sure to shout you out when that video releases. So let's get on with the highway. As you can see here, this is the map of US Highway 6 as it starts at a junction with US 395 in Bishop, California, and travels in a northeast direction, ending at Provincetown at Route 6A in Massachusetts. So with that, we're going eastbound on US 6. So we begin here at US 395, where US 6 is splitting off from US 395, as we get a control city of Tonopah right away, because there's not really anything else big enough to sign in California that Caltrans can sign. And here we get our first mileage sign, and we get Tonopah from 112 miles away still, so that is a good choice. And a ways up the road, we actually get this novelty sign here saying that we're 3,200 miles away from Provincetown, Massachusetts. And we're going to be covering all 3,200 miles. And here we get some pretty awesome scenery, and it is also very desolate as US 6 travels through the rest of California. And here in another mileage time, we still get Tonopah as our primary from 81 miles away, and we're now getting Junction Nevada 360 from 20 as our secondary. Here we are entering into the state of Nevada, and this is actually our first time entering into the state on the channel, so woohoo! And right away, Nevada is signing Ely from a good 245 miles away. And that is the only incorporated place that US 6 goes through in this entire state, so I like seeing this here. And here's a cool thing that Nevada does. They tell you what county you are in and how many miles you are into the county. So this here is saying that we're in Mineral County and we're 12 miles into the county. So that is pretty cool to see. And here's some more scenery, and it is very desolate here in Nevada, as we can see. And now we're meeting with Nevada Highway 264, and if you remember my first error shield video, I actually showed this, and this is where the US 264 error for Nevada 264 is. And after meeting Nevada 264, we're now going to be joining with US 95, and we're going to have a short concurrency as we head towards Tonopah and Las Vegas, which is a good choice. Also, I do like that Reno for northbound 95. And after joining with US 95, we get another mileage sign, and we get Ely still as our primary from 208 miles away, and Las Vegas is US 95's primary from 248 miles away. So it looks like that NDOT is giving FDOT a run of its money for signing good places from a good distance. Here we split off from US Highway 95 as US 6 is now still signed for Ely and now for Austin, Nevada. And our next mileage sign, we now get Courant on the top secondary as from 116 miles away, and Ely is still our primary from a good 167. And then here, all the ways up the road, now we get Ely from 163 miles away. Now we're going to get Delta, Utah from 317. Wow, that tells you how desolate Nevada really is. And we can see at a random junction here, we're still getting signed for Ely, so that is a good choice. And here in the Ely area, we're now going to be joined with US Highway 50 and US 93, as we're now getting signed for Delta, so that is a good choice. Here's where US 93 splits off from US Highway 6 and 50, and US 6 and 50 are going to continue east towards Utah. Also, I really like this cool looking view here. This is pretty awesome. In our next mileage time, we do get Delta as our primary from 126 miles away. And here we meet Nevada 487, and as you saw in the previous mileage time, there is a national park, and this is the road that will take you to that Great Basin National Park here. And here, our next mileage time, we still get Delta as our primary from 96 miles away, with Hinckley from a good 90 miles away. And now we're entering into the state of Utah for the first time since the Children of US 66 video. In our first mileage time in Utah, we still get the same two control cities, and they're still a pretty good distance away. So skipping ahead to the Delta area, we can see they're now splitting off from US Highway 50, as US 6 is now getting signed for Salt Lake City, which is an awesome choice. In our next mileage time, we do get Salt Lake from a good 140 miles away. And here we are now going to be joining with Interstate 15 for a short time, and this is the reason why we're being signed for Salt Lake City. And here's where US 6 splits off from Interstate 15, as US 6 is now getting signed for Price, which I think is an alright choice. And on our way to Price, we actually meet with US Highway 89 here, and we're still being signed for Price. Here we get another mileage time, and we now get Manti from 68 miles away. I wonder if that's for US Highway 89. Here's where US 89 splits off from us, and we can see that it's getting a few control cities. I'm guessing that we're still getting signed for Price still. In fact, we get a one-liner for Price from 50 miles away. Here's some more awesome scenery out here in the western part of the United States. And here's some more awesome scenery. I would like to travel this road someday. It looks very, very, very scenic. And after traveling through the mountains here, we're now going to be joining with US 191 for a short time, and US 6 and 191 are going to be continuing heading towards Price. In fact, in our next mileage time now, we actually get Green River as our primary from 74 miles away, which I think is an okay choice. That is where we meet Interstate 70, and we're going to be joining with it for a little bit. And here in Price, we get a pull through for US 6, and all we just get is 2 Interstate 70, while the business route will take you into downtown Price. And in fact, on our next mileage time now, we're getting Wellington on the top line, Interstate 70 from 57 miles away, and now we're favoring US 191 southbound for Moab from 113. And skipping ahead to the Green River area, we're now going to be joining with Interstate 70 here as we head towards Green River. That should be Denver, not Green River. Come on, Utah, you're usually better than this. Here's where US 191 splits off from US Highway 6 and Interstate 70 as it will head south towards Moab, while US 6 and Interstate 70 are going to be continuing west towards Denver and Grand Junction. And here we are entering into the state of Colorado, so let us see what Colorado has to offer on US Highway 6. And our first mileage sign here on Interstate 70 and US 6, we get Grand Junction. No, that should be Denver. We should start being signed for Denver now. CDOT, why are you signing Grand Junction? And here's where US 6 splits off from Interstate 70 to join up with US 50 for a second time, as these two highways are going to be heading into downtown Grand Junction. And we can see that 70 is now finally signed east for Denver, which is a good choice. Here's where we split off from US Highway 50, and we're going to be saying goodbye to it, and US 6 just gets North Avenue, which I'm perfectly fine with because we're still in the heart of Grand Junction. And after going through downtown Grand Junction, we reunite with Interstate 70 here, and it's also still getting signed for Denver, which is a great choice. And here we get another mileage sign, and we can see that Denver is a good 239 miles away. And here we have some awesome scenery as we're entering into the heart of Rocky Mountains here. And here's some more awesome scenery, and look at these snow-capped mountains. These are very, very, very pretty. And here's where US 6 splits off from Interstate 70 for a short time as it heads through these mountain towns. And here we become a frontage road to Interstate 70. And this is where we reunite with Interstate 70 here in the mountains here, and yes, Interstate 70 does not have any control cities. And here's some more awesome scenery along Interstate 70 here in Colorado. And here we go through the no-name tunnels. Yes, they are literally called no-name tunnels. And here is the community of No Name, as it has a rest area. And I'd like to visit this community someday, so I can say that I've been to No Name. And here is an awesome scenic shot of Interstate 70 and US Highway 6 here in the heart of the Rocky Mountains. And here's some more awesome scenery. And just some more very, very awesome scenery. I want to travel this road someday. It looks absolutely scenic. And here's another awesome shot here of 70 and 6 in the mountains. And here is where US 6 splits off from Interstate 70 for another short time, as it will head through some more communities here in the heart of the Rocky Mountains. And we also meet the western terminus of US Highway 24, and we're now going to be reuniting with Interstate 70 for a short time once again. And then here's some more awesome scenery along Interstate 70 and US 6. And here's a cool scenic view of the mountains and this cool little lake here, so I definitely want to check that out. And here's where we split off from Interstate 70, as US 6 is now going to be heading through Loveland Pass here, and we're now going to be concurrent with Colorado Highway 9. And here's some awesome scenery on US Highway 6 by itself as it's heading up the mountain here. And this view here is actually along Loveland Pass, as US 6 is going around the mountain here instead of going through it like Interstate 70 does. And I decided to use this shot here as my thumbnail for US 6 eastbound because just like the rest of US 6 here in the Rocky Mountains, it's absolutely gorgeous. And after going around the mountain, we reunite with Interstate 70, and this is where US 40 now starts paralleling and / joining Interstate 70. And here's where US 6 finally splits off from Interstate 70 as it will head towards the city of Golden and Boulder. At our next mileage time, we get Golden as our primary from 15 miles away, with a couple of mountain towns only being 1 mile apart from each other. And always up the road, as we're now entering into Jefferson County, here we get Denver as our primary from 27 miles away, which is great to see. And here we meet Colorado 93, as it will take you over towards Boulder, and we're still being signed for Denver, which is an awesome choice. Here is where we meet C470, which will take you over to Interstate 70 westbound, and we can see that it's being signed for Grand Junction and Colorado Springs, which are good choices. And here is now we're meeting with US 40 and Interstate 70 here. And this is where US 6 is now going to be joining with Interstate 25 for a short time, and we can see that the Denver skyline is in the background here, which is pretty cool. Also, I like how US 6 is part of 6th Avenue here. Pretty cool street signage here. And this is where we're going to be joining up with Interstate 70 for truly our last time, as it's being signed for Grand Junction westbound. And do I have to even say it now? Because no one likes that eastbound control city. Here is where we're going to be joining with US Highway 85, and this is where we finally say goodbye to Interstate 70. And 6 and 85 just get the Kentucky streaming here, which I'm fine with because we're still within the heart of Denver, so it's okay here. Now we're meeting with Interstate 270, and if you want to check out a video on 270, it's in the top right corner here, as 270 is being signed west for Boulder, which is an awesome choice. And I'm glad that we don't have a interchange with 270 eastbound, because the Control City is very, 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 very terrible. And always up the road, we actually now join with the western portion of Interstate 76, and we're going to have a very long concurrency as we head out of the city of Denver. And still on Interstate 76 here, we're numbing with E470, and a ways up the road, here's where we split off from Interstate 76, as US 6 is now getting signed for Sterling and Holyoke, which I think are okay choices. In our next mileage chime, we do get Holyoke as our primary from 48 miles away. And here in Holyoke, we meet with US Highway 385 here, and US 6 is now going to be continuing east towards Nebraska. And here we get a very terrible quality street view image of the Welcome to Nebraska sign. And our first mileage chime here in Nebraska, we get McCook as our primary from 61 miles away. I mean, that's an alright choice because there's not really anything sizable out here in western Nebraska. And here's where we're going to be joining with US Highway 34. And US 34 and US 6 are going to have a concurrency as they head towards McCook. In our next mileage chime, we still get McCook from 15 miles away. Here in the McCook area, we'll meet with US Highway 83, and US 83 is going to have a short concurrency with 6 and 34. And here's where US 83 splits off from US Highway 6 and 34, as US 6 and 34 are going to be continuing east of here. In our next mileage chime, we now get Hastings as our primary from 126 miles away. Well done, Nebraska. Oh, and also I forgot to mention, this is our second time entering into the state of Nebraska since the US Highway 20 series, so welcome back. And here in Arapahoe, Nebraska, we meet with US Highway 283 here. And here out in the middle of nowhere in Nebraska, we meet with the western terminus of US Highway 136 here. In our next mileage chime, Hastings has seemed to have gone away, but Holdridge is an alright choice as our primary, as we're going to be meeting with US Highway 183 there. And also there is a Atlanta, Nebraska, strangely. Luckily, after going through Atlanta, Nebraska, Hastings does come back as our primary from a good 62 miles away. So well done there, Nebraska. And here in Holdridge, we meet with US Highway 183, and US 6 and 34 are going to be continuing it towards Hastings. And here in Hastings, we meet with US Highway 281, and 281 northbound is going to be concurrent with us, as 281 southbound is being signed for Red Cloud. And our next mileage chime, we now get Lincoln as our primary from a good 99 miles away. At this point, we're now paralleling Interstate 80, but at least it's pretty awesome to see Lincoln being signed on US 6. And here we meet with US Highway 81 in the middle of nowhere, and guess what US 81 is? Hey, I know this highway. US Highway 81 is a 1,220 mile route as it runs from Fort Worth, Texas, all the way up to the US-Canada border. And it actually used to be border to border before it was truncated up to the Fort Worth area. It is actually shorter than one of its children by almost 700 miles. It does connect the Winnipeg area down to Dallas and Fort Worth. It has two children, US 181 and 281. Some of the highways it meets is Interstate 29 and has a concurrency with it, US 6, US 2, US 64, and many others. It is also a desolate road, as it's just very, very boring in the Midwest. That's a little bit about US Highway 81, and let us get back to US Highway 6. And after US Highway 81, we're still getting Lincoln as our primary from 35 miles away, which is a good choice. And here we actually get our first mention of two Interstate 80, and US 6 is going to be continuing east towards Lincoln still. Here in Lincoln, we meet with US Highway 77, and US 6 is going to be continuing into the heart of the city. And here we meet with here we have a direct interchange with Interstate 180 and US Highway 34, and US 6 is now just getting signed for Cornhusker Highway, which I think is an okay choice because if you want to get to Omaha from here, it'd probably be faster to hop onto 180 and US 34 and take that up to 80 and take that to Omaha, rather than to stay on US Highway 6. Also, I have been on this Interstate 180, but that was like 20 years ago. And here we have our first interchange with Interstate 80 getting signed for Omaha and 80 westbound for nothing for some reason. You're now getting signed 6 east for Waverly, which I think is an okay choice. In our next mileage time, we actually get Elkhorn as our primary from 13 miles away. So I wonder this must be in the Waverly area. And here we meet with US Highway 275 along with Nebraska Highway 92 here. And this is where US 6 is now going to be hopping onto a freeway as it'll head east towards downtown Omaha. And here we meet with Interstate 680, which is again the control city of Interstate 80 itself. And we can see now 6 is now just going to be signed for Dodge Road, which again is a good choice because we're basically about to enter into downtown Omaha anyways. And here's a cool view of downtown Omaha as US 6 is going to be heading through it. And here in downtown we meet with Interstate 480 along with US Highway 75 here. And US 6 is going to be continuing towards downtown and into Iowa. And here are entering into the state of Iowa, and we actually joined Interstate 480 here. And 480 is not that long in the state of Iowa, but we do get a mention of Interstate 29 coming up soon. And here we get a Welcome to Iowa sign. Personally, I prefer the older Iowa sign instead of this one. It's just like, just too bland. Here's where US 6 is going to be joining with Interstate 29 as we head towards Kansas City, which is a good choice. And here's where we're going to be joining with Interstate 80, and depending on if you want to take the local lanes or the express lanes, you're going to either be signed for Council Bluffs or Des Moines respectively. Also, it's also very strange how Council Bluffs has its own express and local lanes. Here's where US 6 splits off from Interstate 80 as it's now getting signed for Oakland, Iowa here, which I think is an alright choice. But our next mileage time, we get Oakland on the top line from 21 miles away, and Atlantic now is our primary from 45. Atlantic is where we meet with US 71. And on our way to Atlantic, we meet with US Highway 59 here, and we are now going to have a short concurrency with it. And we can see now that there's a historic US 6 shield too, so it looks like that Iowa is signing historic 6 as well. Here in Atlantic, we meet with US Highway 71, and we're now going to have a short concurrency with that road. And if you want to check out a series on US 71, it's in the top right corner here. Here's where we're going to be joining with Interstate 80 as we're now getting signed for Des Moines, which is a great choice. And after a 50-mile concurrency with Interstate 80 here, we split off from it to join with US 169 as we're heading towards Adel and Winterset. And our concurrency with US 169 is short-lived as US 6 is now going to be taking a right turn here to be independent. And our next mileage time, we now get Des Moines as our primary from 22 miles away, which is a cool choice. And here in the Des Moines area, we meet with Interstate 35 and 80 here, as these two highways are now concurrent with each other. And here we meet with US Highway 69 in Des Moines. And here we also meet Interstate 235, and US 6 is going to be continuing east of here. And here's where we're going to be meeting with US Highway 65, which is a freeway here in the Des Moines area, as it's being signed for Mason City and Indianola as its primaries. And now we're going to be joining with Interstate 80, and it looks like that 65 northbound was concurrent with Interstate 80 westbound here. Also, if you look on the map, that 86-65 junction, it's just a very weird, odd, convoluted mess. And here's where we split off from Interstate 80 a little ways up the road, and we can see that we're now getting signed for Newton and Monroe. But our next mileage time, we actually get Iowa City as our primary from 81 miles away, which is an awesome choice. And here we meet with US Highway 63, and if you want to check out a series on US 63, it's in the top right corner here. And we're going to be concurrent with 63 northbound. Here's where US 63 splits off from US Highway 6, and US 6 is going to be continuing east of here towards Iowa City. Here we meet with US Highway 151, and we're now getting signed for Coralville and Cedar Rapids. And US 151 southbound will take you to Interstate 80. Here we go under Interstate 380 here in the Iowa City area. Sadly, we do not have a direct interchange with it. And it's going through the heart of Iowa City, and also passes right by the University of Iowa here, so that is pretty cool. And now we're going to be joining with Interstate 80 for a third time, as we're now getting signed for Davenport, which is one of the Quad Cities here in the Quad City area. And on this concurrency, we actually passed by Iowa 80 here. Personally, I have not been to Iowa 80, but I have been to its sister location, Kenly 95, over here in North Carolina. So I should visit Iowa 80 someday. Here's where we're split off from Interstate 80, joining with Interstate 280 here, getting signed for Rock Island and Moline, which are good choices. While 80 East is getting that awesome eastbound control of Chicago. Wow. Here's where we split off from Interstate 280, as we have a really short concurrency with it, and we just get Walcott as our primary and a Kentucky treatment. And now we're going to be joining with Interstate 74 here, and we just get 74 and 6 and no Control City. And here in the heart of the Moline Rock Island area, we meet with US Highway 67, which is getting a couple of Kentucky treatments. And no, I will not be doing the meme. It is dead. Please stop posting everywhere. And now we're entering into the state of Illinois, and right away we're meeting with Illinois Highway 92, which is actually part of the Super 92, which is just like the Super 200. And here's where we split off from both Interstate 74 and 280, as they're now getting signed for Peoria and Chicago respectively. And we just get the Quad Cities Airport, which I think is fine, because if you want to get anywhere beyond the airport, it'd be better to take 74 and 280 here. And here we meet with US Highway 150, and we can see that we're now getting signed for Coal Valley and Genoso, while US 150 will take you over to Galesburg. In our next mileage time, we get Genoso as our primary from 17 miles away. And now we're meeting with Interstate 80 here, and we can see that there is a mention of both Interstate 74 and 88 here. And I like that Control City for 80 westbound, but 80 eastbound should not be Joliet, it should be Chicago. I have nothing against the city of Joliet, as I have family who live there, but it should not be signed on Interstate 80. It's fine for US 6, but not Interstate 80. But our next mileage time here on US 6 itself, we get Princeton now as our primary from 48 miles away. And we finally reunite with US Highway 34 after being away from it for so long now. Welcome back, old friend. In our next mileage time, we actually get Mendota as our primary, but that's for US Highway 34. We're still getting signed for Princeton from a good 14 miles away. And our concurrency with US 34 is short-lived. And here in Princeton, we split off from it, as it'll take you up towards Mendota, while US 6 is going to be continuing towards LaSalle, Peru. In fact, our next mileage time, we do get Peru as our primary from 19 miles away, along with Interstate 180 from a good 4 miles away. And here we meet the most useless interstate ever, Interstate 180, as it's been signed for Hennepin and Interstate 80 respectively. And skipping ahead to the Peru area, we'll meet with Illinois Highway 251 here, as it's been signed also for Mendota, along with Tonopah. And on Illinois 251, US 6 is now getting signed east for LaSalle, which is a good choice. Here in the LaSalle area, meet with Interstate 39 along with US Highway 51, as they're getting signed for Rockford and Bloomington respectively. In our next mileage time, we now get Audible on the top line from 13 miles away and Marcellus from 21. In the Lewis up the road, we now get Morris on the top line and Joliet now becomes our primary from 35 miles away. And after going through Morris, we get another mileage time and we still get Joliet from 21 miles away as our primary still. And here in the outskirts of the Chicago metro area, we meet with Interstate 55, which is being signed north for Chicago respectively. And 55 south should not be Bloomington, that should be St. Louis or even Springfield. No need for that Bloomington. It's fine on Interstate 39, but not for Interstate 55. And here we get a cool view of Interstate 80 going over US Highway 6 here. And that bridge definitely needs repairing. It does not look super well. Now we're going to be joining with our good old friend US Highway 52 for a short, brief concurrency. And after going through over the Des Plaines River, we split off from US Highway 52, and now we're going to be joining with Illinois Highway 53, and we're going to be heading towards US Highway 30. Here in the heart of downtown Joliet, we meet with US Highway 30, and we're not going to have a short concurrency with it. And after that short concurrency, we split off from US Highway 30 as US 6 is going to be continuing northeast of here. And always up the road here, we're meeting Interstate 355, which is being signed for to Interstate 81 direction, and northwest suburbs going the other. Here we meet with US Highway 45, which is still known as LaGrange Road here on the south side of Chicago, but US 12 and 20 has far left it north of here. Now we're meeting with Illinois Highway 50, which is still known as Cicero Avenue here, and will take you actually up to Midway Airport. And we're now meeting with Interstate 57, which is just getting no control cities here, but we do get a mention of the Tri-State Tollway coming up soon. And US 6 also has a direct interchange with the Tri-State Tollway, which is just getting signed for Indiana and Wisconsin respectively. And now we're meeting with Interstate 94 itself, and US 6 is going to be continuing east of here. You're going to be joining with Interstate 80 and 94 eastbound, as 80 and 94 westbound will take you back over to the Tri-State Tollway here. And we're now entering into the state of Indiana, so let us see what Indiana has to offer on US Highway 6. And here we meet with US Highway 41, and 41 is getting signed south for Indianapolis Boulevard, coming up in a couple of miles. And here we meet with the northern terminus of Interstate 65, which will take you up to Interstate 90 and south towards Indy respectively. And here's where we split off from Interstate 80 and 94, as US 6 is now going to be joining with Indiana Highway 51 here. Our next mileage time, we actually get Kendallville now as our primary from 98 miles away, with a Walkerton as our secondary from 34. And here in Westville, Indiana, we meet with US Highway 421, and we're now going to have a short concurrency with it. Here's where we split off from US 421 as we're now getting signed for Walkerton. I mean, that's okay, but I prefer to see Kendallville because that was we were being signed for from the Interstate 80-94 split. Here we meet with US Highway 35, and we're now getting signed for Walkertown and Knox for some reason. And this is where US 35 splits off from US Highway 6, as US 6 is going to be continuing towards Walkerton and Kendallville. And here we meet with US Highway 31 here, getting signed for South Bend and Plymouth respectively. I mean, you could argue for Plymouth because that's where it meets US 30, but I would prefer to see Indianapolis instead because US 31 is a freeway and is the fastest way to Indianapolis from here. Also, if you want to check out a series on US Highway 31, it's in the top right corner here. In our next mileage time, we get Bremen on the top line from 6 miles away. We now get Napanee from 16. What's happened to Kendallville? Why is Kendallville gone, Indiana? But luckily, after going through Napanee, we get Kendallville as our primary once again from 38 miles away. And here in Kendallville, we meet with Indiana Highway 3, and we're going to have a short concurrency with it as we head through town. In the next match, we get Butler from a good 15 miles away. I mean, you could sign something beyond Butler, but Butler is still a pretty sizable town, and it's where we meet Indiana 1. And here in Butler, we pass by the US 6 Bar and Grill here, so that is pretty awesome. And after going through Butler, we get another mileage sign with Napoleon now as our primary from 40 miles away, and Edgerton, Ohio from 6 miles away. And now we're entering into the state of Ohio, so let us see what Ohio has to offer on US Highway 6. And right away we meet with Ohio Highway 49 here. And here we meet with US 127 and Ohio 2 as they're getting signed for Bryan and Sherwood respectively. On the next mileage sign, we actually now get Bowling Green as our primary from a good 15 miles away, so that is awesome by Ohio here. Here in the Napoleon area, we're now going to be joining with US Highway 24 as we're now getting signed for Bowling Green and Maumee. Also, this is our first time in US Highway 24 since it's the western terminus, so that is pretty awesome. And we split off from US Highway 24 as it's been signed for Maumee and Toledo, and we're not getting signed for Bowling Green still, which is a good choice. In fact, Bowling Green is still our primary from a good 22 miles away. Here in Bowling Green, we met with Ohio Highway 25, which actually used to be US 25, before 25 was truncated down to the Cincinnati area. And we can see that Ohio 25 will take you into downtown Bowling Green. Here we meet with Interstate 75 getting signed for Dayton and Toledo respectively here. In our next mileage time, we now get Fremont as our primary from 26 miles away with Helena, Ohio from 17. Here we meet with US Highway 23 in this very sussy looking intersection here, Ohio. What is going on? And skipping ahead to the Fremont area, we meet with US Highway 20, and we're not going to have a short concurrency with it, as it's being signed for Fremont and Perrysburg westbound. And here's where we split off from US Highway 20 as it's being signed for Norwalk, which I think is an alright choice, along with it's being concurrent with Ohio 19. While the US 6 is going to be continuing at northeast towards Sandusky now. Here we go under the Ohio Turnpike here, and we do not have a direct interchange with it, sadly. And now we're meeting with Ohio Highway 2, which is being signed for Toledo and Cleveland respectively, which are great choices. And here in Sandusky, we meet the northern terminus of Ohio Highway 4. And Ohio 4 was actually part of 4 state highways that I did for my channel's 4th anniversary, which you can check out that video down in the description below. Here we meet the western terminus of US Highway 250, which I actually will be planning on doing for July 4th next year to celebrate America's 250th birthday. And I would be joining with Ohio Highway 2 as an getting signed east for Cleveland, which is a great choice. And our concurrency is short-lived as we're not splitting off from Ohio 2 as we're not getting signed east for Huron. And outside of Huron, we're not getting signed for Vermilion from a good 7 miles away. And every time I see Vermilion, I think of Pokemon because of Vermilion City. Here in downtown Vermilion, we meet with Ohio 60 here. And here also in Vermilion, we pass by this very cool looking lighthouse. And US 6 is actually very close to Lake Erie here, so that is pretty cool. And skipping ahead to the Cleveland area, US 20 is now reuniting with US Highway 6 as these two highways, along with Ohio 2, are going to be heading towards downtown Cleveland. Here's where Ohio 2 splits off from US 6 and 20 as we're now just getting the Kentucky treatment, which is fine because we're literally about to into downtown Cleveland and meet a whole bunch of highways at the Cleveland Public Square. In fact, here is my very wonderful drawing skills of all those highways meeting with each other. And we split off from US 20 for a brief short time. This is also the western terminus of US 322 and US 422 and the eastern terminus of US Highway 42. So that is pretty cool. Here's where US 322 actually splits off from US Highway 6. And this is where we reunite with US Highway 20 for a short time, as we're going to be continuing east through the eastern burbs of Cleveland. And this is where we finally split off from US Highway 20, as US 6 is going to be continuing east towards Pennsylvania here, just like US 20. And here we go over Interstate 271, as we do not have a direct interchange with it, because this is actually very close to the eastern terminus of the highway. And here, our next mileage time, we now get Andover as our primary from 33 miles away. I know Andover, Ohio is like the last town we'll be passing through, but I would like to see like Meadville, Pennsylvania instead of just Andover. And here in Andover, we with Ohio 7 here, and Ohio 7 and US 6 are going to have a concurrency. And since there is like basically no signage between the Pennsylvania border and the split with Ohio 7, we're skipping ahead to the state of Pennsylvania. Let's see what Pennsylvania has to offer on US Highway 6. Oh boy. In our first junction here in Pennsylvania, we can see that we're now getting signed for Conneaut Lake, which is okay. That is where we meet with Pennsylvania 18 and reunite with US 322. In fact, here is that set junction with US 322 and Pennsylvania 18, as we're now going to be continuing towards Meadville now. In fact, we get a one-liner here with Meadville from 5 miles away, which I think is okay. Here we meet with US Highway 19, and US 19, 6, and 322 are all going to have a concurrency. And we can see that there's still a one-liner here for Meadville from 4 miles away now. And take one good look at this interchange, sadly, because this is the last time we'll be passing through it, because I've already done both US 322 and US 19 here, sadly. But it's still a pretty awesome interchange because of both the scenery and the great control City 79 gets. And here's where US 322 splits off from US 6 and 19. They're also going to have a short concurrency with Pennsylvania 27. The next mileage time, we get Erie on the top line for US 19 and Corey as our primary from 41 miles away. And here's where US 6 splits off from US Highway 19, as it's been signed for Corey still. Also, why is there such thing as US 6N when there is no 6S? US 6N is just like 70 NNS spur routes of US 6. So it should just be like 6A something, or even just like, just make it Pennsylvania 6 and just have it be the extension of that road. No need for 6N. And next mileage time, we still get Corey as our primary from 20 miles away. And here in Corey, we're now getting signed for Warren, which is a great choice. That's where we meet with US Highway 62. But our next mileage time, we get Warren still as our primary from a good 11 miles away, and I have no idea why there are up arrows though. Here we meet with US Highway 62, and I will not be talking about those control cities until westbound US 6, so please get them off my screen. Here's where US 62 splits off from US Highway 6, and I think that should be Buffalo, because we haven't met US 219 yet, and US 62 is the fastest way to Buffalo from here. Our next mileage time, we now get Kane as our primary from 27 miles away, which I think is an alright choice. It's a decently sized town, and it's for me both Pennsylvania 66 and 666. Here is that junction with Pennsylvania 666. And at Rand Junction here, we're now getting signed for Bradford and Mount Jewett for our next two control cities, along with Wilcox. Here we meet with US Highway 219, and we're not just getting signed for Mount Jewett. No, that should be Smethport. That should be Smethport, PennDOT. Luckily, our next mileage time, Smethport is our primary from 18 miles away, so that is pretty awesome. Here in Smethport, we're now getting signed for Cootersport as our primary, so that is awesome. Our next mileage time, we get Port Allegheny on the top line from 8 miles away, and Cootersport still as our primary from 26. Here we meet with Pennsylvania Highway 44, and our next two control cities now becomes Wellsboro and Jersey Shore. I do like that Wellsboro for US 6 here. And our next mileage time, we get Gailton on the top line from 18 miles away, and Wellsboro still as our primary from 41. Here in the Wellsboro area, we meet with Pennsylvania 660 and 287 here, as we're now getting signed for Mansfield, which I think is an alright choice. That's where we meet with the Great US 15 and Interstate 99. Here we meet with US Highway 15 and along with future Interstate 99 as they're getting signed for Corning and Williamsport respectively. And after going through Mansfield, we now get Towanda as our primary from 35 miles away. That is where we meet US Highway 220. And here in the Towanda area, we meet with US Highway 220 and US 6 is going to be heading into the town of Towanda. And here in Towanda, we're now getting signed east for Wysox, which is just literally the town right across the Susquehanna River from here. That should be Tehanic or even Scranton, because US 6 is now the fastest way to Scranton from here. Come on, PennDOT, you're doing so well. Why are you signing this small town that no one knows of? Sign Tehanic or Scranton. But we do get an absolutely cool shot of US 6 crossing the Susquehanna River here. And here in Wysox, we're now getting signed for Wysoling, which I do not like at all. That should be, again, Tehanic or Scranton. No need for Wysoling. And here in the Wysoling area, we're now getting signed for Laceyville. So it looks like that PennDOT is now just signing every next town along US 6. No! That should be Scranton or Tehanic. Luckily, skipping ahead to the Tehanic area, we're now getting signed for Scranton and our bypass route, which is a great choice. In fact, our next mileage time, we do get Scranton from a good 25 miles away. I mean, it should have been signed since Towanda. And here we meet with US Highway 11, and US 11 and 6 are going to be heading towards Scranton still, and we also see that 6 westbound is being signed for Tehanic and Towanda. So if they can sign Towanda from the Scranton area, then why can't they do the Scranton area from Towanda? Come on, PennDOT. Here in the Scranton area, we split off from US Highway 11 to join with the Pennsylvania Turnpike or Interstate 476 for a short time. And we can see that we're now getting signed for Binghamton and Wilkes-Barre, which are great choices. But we actually aren't concurrent with the Pennsylvania Turnpike or 476. We're actually joining with Interstate 81 here, with those control cities for Binghamton and Wilkes-Barre. Here's where we split off from Interstate 81, getting signed south for Wilkes-Barre, while we're going to be joining with Interstate 84 here and 380, as they're now getting signed for Carbondale and Mount Pocono. Those are terrible control cities. I mean, Carbondale is fine for 6, but please change that Mount Pocono. And here in the Carbondale area, we're now getting signed for Honesdale, which I think is an okay choice. And here in the Honesdale area, we're now getting signed for Holly from 5 miles away. And here we can see that we're now getting signed for both Milford and Port Jervis, as we're meeting a Pennsylvania State Highway here. And now we're meeting with Interstate 84, which is now getting signed for Port Jervis, but I do like that westbound control city of Scranton. Port Jervis is fine for US 6, but not for Interstate 84. And here in Milford, we'll meet with US Highway 209, and we're now going to be concurrent with 209 northbound as we're heading towards Matamoros from 6 miles away. And here in Matamoros, we're now crossing over the Delaware River here and into the state of New York. Oh boy. And right away, New York gives us a welcome present as US 209 has get an error shield here. Come on, New York. And here is where US 6 splits off from US Highway 209 here in Port Jervis, as US 6 is going to be continuing east into the state. And skipping ahead a little bit, we meet with Interstate 84 for another time, and we can see that US 6 and New York 17M are getting signed for Goshen now, which are I think is an okay choice. And after that meeting with Interstate 84, US 6 is now going to be merging into New York Highway 17 here. And here is the exit for downtown Goshen, and also I learned that there's a Florida, New York. And at that same junction, we're now getting signed for Chester now as our next control city, which I think is okay. And here at another end, here in Chester, we're now getting signed east for Monroe, New York. Okay. Here in the Monroe area, we're actually meeting with Interstate 87 / the New York Thruway here. And we can see that US 6 is now getting signed east for Bear Mountain. Also, this picture was taken by Lost in New York, so thank you for letting me use this picture. And we can see that we're now going to be joining with the Palisades Interstate Parkway here, as we're going to be heading towards Bear Mountain State Park and the Bear Mountain Bridge. And here we're going to be joining with US Highway 202, and we also meet with US Highway 9W here, and we're now getting signed for Peekskill. And we made it this far into US 6, now we're going to have to pay a $2.15 toll just to cross a bridge over the river here, sadly. But it's only $1.65 if you have an easy pass. But on the Bear Mountain Bridge, we actually get a spectacular view of the river here along with Bear Mountain, so that is pretty awesome. And on the other side, we're now meeting with US Highway 9 proper, and we're going to have a short concurrency with it as we're still heading towards Peekskill. Here's where US 6 and 202 splits off from US Highway 9, as it'll take you into downtown Peekskill. And at a ramp junction here, just east of Peekskill, we're now getting signed for Lake Mohegan and Brewster as our next two control cities. Here we meet the Taconic State Parkway here, as US 6 is going to be continuing towards Brewster and other places. And now we're going to be reuniting with US Highway 202 as we're now getting signed for Pauling and Danbury as our next two control cities. And right as we're exiting out of the state of New York has to offer us one more error shield. This time it's to poor US 202. And here I meet with Interstate 684 as it'll take you over to Danbury and Newburgh and White Plains, while US 6 and 202 are going to be continuing towards Connecticut. And here we get a Welcome to Connecticut sign, and we're actually now entering into the downtown of Danbury. And here's where we're going to be joining with Interstate 84, along with US Highway 7 and US 6, 7, and 202 are all going to have a concurrency. Here's where US 7 and 202 splits off from US 6 and Interstate 84, as they're going to be heading towards Brookfield and New Milford, while 84 is going to be heading east towards Waterbury. I mean, you could throw on Hartford there too, but Waterbury is okay. And here we have another picture. This one was again taken by Lost in New York. He took a picture of the US 6 split with Interstate 84 here, as it's now getting signed for Bethel. Our next mileage time, we now are concurrent with Connecticut 25. We're now getting signed for Newton and Bridgeport from 23 miles away. And after going through Bridgeport, we now get Hartford as our primary from 56 miles away, so that is pretty awesome. And here we join with Interstate 84 for a second time, as US 6 is now going to be heading toward Waterbury still. And here is our third and split with Interstate 84, and again this one was taken by Lost in New York. So thank you for letting me use these pictures. And we can see that US 6 is now getting signed for Southbury, and now going to be concurrent with Connecticut 67. Here we get Watertown as our next primary from a good 11 miles away. I mean, you could throw on Waterbury once again. But here we get another mileage time. We now get Thomaston from 6 miles away, and we also get Black Rock State Park from also 6 miles away. So what's the point of this mileage sign exactly? Here we meet with Connecticut Highway 8 here, and we're now going to have a short concurrency with Connecticut 8 northbound. And here's where US 6 splits off from Connecticut 8, as it's getting signed for Thomaston and Bristol respectively. And our next mileage time, we now get Bristol, Connecticut from 6 miles away, which I think is fine because it would have been faster to get to Hartford while staying on Interstate 84. Luckily, our next mileage time here in the Bristol area, we now get Hartford as our primary once again from 17 miles away, so that is awesome. And here's where we'll be joining with Interstate 84 for a pretty long concurrency as we head towards the city of Hartford. And here in downtown Hartford, we meet both with US Highway 44 and Interstate 91 respectively. And a ways up the road outside of Hartford, we now meet with Interstate 384, which I actually covered in the US 44 video, which you can check out in the top right corner here. Everything to that 84 is now getting signed for Boston, which is awesome. Here's where we split off from Interstate 84, as 6 and 44 are now going to have a concurrency as we head towards Manchester. And I'm going to be skipping the 6 and 44 concurrency because I already covered the eastbound portion in the US 44 video. So here's where US 6 splits off from US Highway 44 as we're now getting signed for Willimantic and Providence respectively. But we just get a one-liner for Willimantic from 9 miles away. I mean, I would like to see Providence on here too. And here in Willimantic, we meet with Connecticut Highway 150, and it will take you over to the University of Connecticut. And here still in the Willimantic area, we meet with Connecticut Highway 66, and we are now being signed for Providence, which is an awesome choice. And on our way to Providence, we meet with Interstate 395, being signed for Norwich and nothing for northbound respectively. And we're now entering back into the state of Rhode Island, so let us see what Rhode Island has to offer on US Highway 6. Here at our first random junction, where you can see that US 6 is now getting signed for Providence, which is an awesome choice. Here we're going to be joining with Providence Interstate 295, and 295 and US 6 are going to have a short concurrency. Here's where US 6 splits off from Interstate 295 as we're now getting signed east for Providence. Here we're going to be joining with Rhode Island Highway 10 as US 6 are going to have a concurrency as we head towards downtown Providence. I don't know why it's not signed there. And then at the end of Rhode Island Highway 10, we're now going to be joining with the Great Interstate 95 as we're going to be heading south towards Interstate 195. And now we're going to be joining with Interstate 195 as we're going to be heading towards East Providence and the Cape Cod region, which I think is an alright choice. And here we meet with US Highway 44 once again in the Providence area. And this is where we split off from Interstate 195 as we're now getting signed for Cont, Massachusetts, which I think is an okay choice because we're going to be paralleling Interstate 195, and if you want to get to the Cape Cod region, you're better off staying on Interstate 195 instead of taking US 6 all the way there. And now we're entering into the state of Massachusetts. Sadly, MassDOT does not give us a welcome sign, but they are telling us that we are now entering into the town of Cont. Here in Cont, we can see that we're now getting signed for Fall River in Barrington, Rhode Island. And on our way to Fall River, we actually meet with Interstate 195 once again, and it's getting signed for both Fall River and Cape Cod. Here in the Fall River area, we're meeting with Massachusetts Highway 24 here, which will actually take you all the way up to Boston, while US 6 is just now getting signed east for Eastern Avenue. Here we can see that we're now paralleling Interstate 195, and we can see that Interstate 195 is getting signed for Cape Cod. And here we can see that US 6 is now getting signed east for Dartmouth, which isn't a good choice. And here in the Dartmouth area, we're now getting signed for New Bedford in Fairhaven, Massachusetts. Here in the New Bedford area, we meet with Massachusetts Highway 140, or Route 140, and it will take you up to Taunton and Boston respectively, while US 6 is going to continue east towards downtown New Bedford. And still in the New Bedford area, we're now getting signed for Massaposet as our next control city. Here in Massaposet, we're now getting signed east for Wareham and Buzzards Bay. So we're getting closer to the Cape Cod region. Here we meet with Route 28 here. We can see that now 6 and 28 are now getting signed for Onset and Buzzards Bay. And here we get an error shield for Massachusetts Highway 28. For some reason they're signing as like Kentucky 28 or Iowa 28 or New Jersey 28 instead of Massachusetts 28. And here is where Route 28 splits off from US Highway 6, as US 6 is now being signed for Hyannis, while 25 and 28 will take you to Falmouth and Boston respectively. And here we are meeting the southern terminus of Massachusetts Route 3, which will take you up north toward Boston and Plymouth. And we can see that US 6 is still getting signed east for Hyannis. Here we are on the Sagamore Bridge going over the Cape Cod Canal onto the Cape Cod. And right away we're now getting signed east for Hyannis and Provincetown, as we're meeting with Massachusetts Route 6A here, getting signed for Sagamore. And hey, look at that! MassDOT finally gives us a mileage sign with Provincetown as our primary from 62 miles away. And here we split off from Massachusetts Route 28 once again, as it's getting signed for Orleans, but we're now getting signed for Eastham and Provincetown. And here's the exit that will take you over to the famous Cape Cod Lighthouse, as US 6 is going to be continuing in like a northwesterly direction towards Raceland Beach. And we can see that we're now getting signed for Herring and Cove Beach as we've passed through the Provincetown area. We actually get a historic and US Highway 6 sign telling us that it used to be 3,652 miles from coast to coast. Sadly, it's been truncated to only now 3,200 miles, but at least this sign is still up there, so that is pretty awesome. But US 6 actually officially ends here at Route 6A, and if you want to head towards the beach, you can take a right turn here coming up soon, or you can head back to Provincetown by staying straight on Route 6A. We're going to actually be taking a right turn to head towards Herring Cove Beach and Race Point. And if we follow that road here, we actually end up right at the doorstep of the Atlantic Ocean, so that is pretty awesome. So with that, we end US Highway 6 and we move on to all the places I'll go. See, these are all the places that I'd visit if I ever was to travel on any portion of US Highway 6. If you have any other places that I should visit along this 3,200 mile highway, please let me know down in the comment section below and I'll make sure to check it out if I'm ever in that area. So with that, we end US Highway 6 eastbound. Thank you all so much for watching that long episode on US Highway 6 eastbound. I hope you got to learn a little bit more about this highway, and I know that there would be no one who's willing to travel it from end to end, but it is pretty cool in some places along this highway. So with that, here are my next few highways. If you have any intersection requests for any of these upcoming highways, please let me know down in the comment section below, and I'll make sure to show you out once these highways release. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see y'all next week during Thanksgiving on US 3. Bye!